All right, let's get this going though. Thank you so much, Ravicar, by the way, for that sub. All right. Welcome back, everyone that's tuning in here from YouTube. Doing this live, but we will put this back up on YouTube. For those of you guys who are in the chat, you will be up on YouTube for this. All right. We are doing the Global Lab updates for 18 July 2025. Now, normally I don't do global labs. You guys know this. I'm not really a global lab update person. However, this is a big one. This is a big patch. And that's part of why I decided that this is kind of a necessary one for me to go over, because I feel like there's a lot of information to digest and it's very easy to get this information wrong. So we're going to get started by just going in from the top. Here's their itinerary. I'm not going to go over this part, but we will go over it when we actually go down to the actual notes. All right. So let's move this over to the middle screen. All right. Notice of correction of Global Lab update on Friday, July 18th. Okay, so this part, if this is what I understand, this is they're basically talking about how they're correcting the Global Lab from last week. Added information about not being able to move the mouse while using the skill. The classification notation of the Maehwa's class damage ratios has been revised, and added examples of how special damage effects are applied. So this is kind of a big deal, right? We're talking about a combat system overhaul, right? We sure during 2025, Black Desert's combat system has undergone a major overhaul. We focused on the areas we identified as problematic. But since various mechanics in the combat system interact with one another, we made adjustments across the board. Our aim was to refine the very structure of combat, polishing its foundation while keeping each class's performance as close as possible to what you're used to. That said, because so many elements have changed, you might notice things feel a bit different. We'll keep listening to your feedback and watching the data to make further improvements. We'll keep doing our utmost to bring you more enjoyable adventures. Thank you. One thing I want you guys to keep in mind is because this is an overhaul, you cannot take what we already understand about the game and apply it moving forward when the core stuff is changing. So for example, damage calculations are changing. So one thing that people tend to do is they'll see percentages and start to freak out before they've experienced what those percentages feel like, because it's not just the combat mechanics damage output, it's also the defense input, it's also the passives. A lot of things are changing, class to class ratios. And because these are percentage-based changes, yes, there's going to be flaws when it comes out. I'm not saying there's not going to be flaws, but what I am saying, I want to kind of maintain some optimism going into this, because these are good changes from what I've seen. I am happy with what we've seen for changes, right? And that doesn't mean that it's going to come out perfect, because it's Prolibus. We might get the usual flavor of dog doo-doo when they actually release it, because it might be something good caked in something bad, right? But that doesn't mean that the core thing might not be a good thing. Let's just wait for it to come out before we start to complain about it. That's all I'm saying, is give it a chance to breathe and don't do what I call confirmation bias, right? If you're not familiar with the concept of confirmation bias, it's applying new information to suit a bias that you already have, that you feel you know to be true. So don't engage in confirmation bias. Try to approach with an open mind, all right? So let's start off. Reduced deviation in base stat values that are always applied to each class. This is their class-to-class ratios. The difference in the base stats of each class will be reduced. AP will be increased, defense reduction will be increased, and special damage will be increased. With the increase of AP, it is logical to experience a DR update increase. Otherwise, you're going to feel squishier for no reason. You got to keep in mind, guys, that we are going to feel squishier. Sovereign weapons are coming. We got straight up AP updates or upgrades in the form of the Garmoth's Heart. We are going to feel a little squishier. So it makes sense that the DR increase is going to move up with it. And it's not going to move up 1-to-1. I suspect AP is going to move up ahead of the DR, because right now DR is pretty high with the anticipation of all these changes. So you might feel at first, like if you're a heavy DR user, you might feel you got your pee-pee slapped for a nerf, but what's happening is they're bringing up that damage ratio. So one thing that I personally plan to do, for example, is introduce one more DR crystal to my normal loadout. And I think a lot of people are going to do something similar. All right, All this means is that if you are a pure AP glass cannon build, you're going to have a lot more solutions for players that are stacking DR. You can check the detailed changes to the relevant items in the class specific change information. Special damage effects stack according to the rules below. So now we're going to be talking about special damage effects specifically. The special damage effects obtained from skills and the special damage effects of skill add-ons are applied in an overlap manner. I think that's how it is now. Individual special damage effects like back attack, increased critical hit damage, etc. do not stack with each other. However, each individual special damage and all special damage effects stack. Okay, let me understand this. They don't stack with each other, but the individual special damage, okay. What this is saying is that back attack and critical attack damage do not stack with each other, but individual special attack damage, i.e. back attack damage, and effects that have the phrasing special attack damage do stack with each other. So let's say you have 10% special attack damage increase and a 10% back attack damage decrease. When you do back attacks, you are doing 20% of that special attack damage. So in this example, they say the critical hit damage increase and all special attacks damage increase stack. Example, 10% back attack damage. Oh, they're saying what I just said. 15% back attack damage do not stack, right? So you don't get 10 and 15% for a total of 25%. Only the 15% back attack damage is applied. So only the highest value is going to be applied. So if you have a 10% and you have a 15% back attack damage, you're only going to get the 15%. However, back attack damage and 5% critical hit damage are applied in stack. So different sources come together. So if you have a 10% back attack damage that also happens to crit, you're going to get the 10% back attack damage from it and the 5% critical hit damage. Does that make sense? When I don't have DR to start with, I will miss it not. Well, to be fair, a lot of people build their characters around the existing metas. So when the existing meta changes, it's a really big deal because usually you're talking about players who have billions upon billions upon billions of silver invested. Like if you value out my gear, we're talking about in the trillions, in the high trillions. And a lot of people are probably in the same boat that are most concerned with these builds or these changes. All right, change resistance and ignore resistance ability values. Resistance abilities will no longer be applied in PvP and ignore resistance abilities will be removed accordingly. So that means your resist and your ignore resist go away. Now, you're probably not going to get any kind of compensation outside of silver for things like your reforged stones. So start thinking if you have, like I have a 10% reduced reforged stone value, right? So if you have reforged stones, right, that reduce something like 10% knockdown resistance, you need to start thinking about what you want to plug in place of those things. If you have add-ons that give you resistance or resist ignore, you want to start thinking about what you want to plug in their place. All right, so do keep that in mind. If you're using something like the gallantry crystals that were previously giving you ignore all resist, and you're using those for PvP, you might want to start rethinking that because the resistance itself might not go away because it's still usable in PvE. All right, so due to the change of resistance, the effects of some class passive skills that increase resistance or ignore resistance has been changed. Due to the changes to resistance, the effects of some class unique buff skills that increase resistance or ignore resistance have been changed. Like for example, as a warrior, we get a resist passive when we use our E buff, we just increase our resistance. They're saying that we are getting something in there, either they're being removed or we're getting something in their place, but I'm hoping we'll find out what that is. And I don't anticipate that Perlibus is going to get this right all in one shot. So if you are playing a specific class and that class is affected and your class maybe didn't get something in place of a resistance being lost, I would recommend you speak up in this video or in the chat. That is true. They are not changing my song that gives 40% resistance. Yeah, it'll still give you 40% resistance, but it will only apply in PvE. So 40% resistance is good for when you're grinding something like Olin's Valley or maybe Ash Forest, but in PvP, it will not do very much. Due to changes to resistance, some classes that had resistance increasing, decreasing, or ignoring effects have had their stats removed or changed. Said, I just hope Zerk skills reworks are good since taking away mouse move. As long as our skills are good without mouse move. I think that's a fair statement. I would say that if they're going to remove the things that you felt you needed mouse move for, they should make it more mobile, right? A lot of people would talk about how the Zerk sprint, for example, was very difficult to turn. Maybe they'll tighten up the turn radius. I don't know. But if they don't tighten up the turn radius, then maybe you just got really used to something that you really shouldn't have had access to because of how desyncy it was. And all that's really happening is that a high skill player and a low skill player skill ceiling is kind of getting closer to the center line. A high skill player is going to make do with what he's got. A low skill player is going to reroll. That's just how it be. So if I'm talking about you and you're like, oh, well, now my class sucks, so I'm rerolling. Sorry, buddy. Maybe you weren't very good at the class. You were just good at abusing some mechanics that were very difficult to counter because a player could literally not see you. So if that's the bitter pill you got to swallow, man, I'm sorry, but that's you, pal. All right. You can check the detailed changes of the relevant items in the class-specific change information. The base resistance value of all characters is unified to 20%. So that means that in PvP, you'll all have 20% base resistance. Not bad. The base resistance of the Berserker, Witch, and Wizard classes will be unified to 20%. Okay, so if you had a base resist, I don't know if this affects Warrior, but this is kind of interesting that they had... I didn't know they had resistance built in. Like, Berserkers had resistances baked in. I was not aware of that. Let's see here. They must be John Cena. You can't see me. Yeah, dude, for real. Mouse move is disabled when performing a skill. Our hotbar, C buff, and suck makes ours 80 to 100% resistance. Huh, interesting. All right, let's talk about this one. This is a big boy. Changes to the grab skills. The following changes will be applied to skills with a grab effect during status abnormalities, aka crowd controls, and due to the changes in resistance and ignore resist. All grab skills will have an effect added to indicate that this is a grab skill. I am all on board with this. I think that this is great because as it is right now, if you are trying to bait out a grab and you don't know what the grab animation looks like, or for example, you're fighting a ranger or a tamer, that grab animation can execute so fast and the fail animation was not obvious. So them now adding a visual indicator now helps you. So in other words, you have to kind of be more careful when you're fighting a player. Or actually, if you already were very careful, this is a huge help, right? This is something that you have to pay attention to. Man, you're like, okay, he's out of grabs. Now we can go in for a grab. Well, now there's a very obvious indicator to everybody else that you've grabbed. So if you are the player, if you're the grabbing player, you got to be more careful and more tactical with those grabs. Throwing grabs out willy-nilly will just make it very clear to other people that your grab is now on cooldown, right? That's what this visual indicator does. And I think that's a good thing because right now, again, it's a skill cap issue, right? If I use my grab, you can now count to 15 and be like, oh, okay, he's got no grab for 15 seconds. So in your mind, you can start counting in 15, right? Melee and range grabs are adjusted to take 0.3 seconds to prepare the action. Again, very fair. What this does, and you may not realize this, what this does is this removes the iframe into grapple problem because now you have a 0.3 seconds of vulnerability. So what this is saying is if I know you're coming in for a grab, I actually have some counterplay options for you now. Now, granted, 0.3 seconds is not a lot of time. If a Berserker's running up on you and they want to Wi-Fi grab you, that's gone. Because one, click to move is gone, and two, there's now a 0.3 second windup. I think that's super fair, right? I want to be able to have some counterplay options to when I know you're going in for a grab. Desync is already going to factor in, right? So players are going to have some desync issues, so this actually kind of helps combats the desync, right? The dash grab has been adjusted to take 0.4 seconds to prepare the action. I'm not really sure which classes are referred to as dash grab. I can assume this probably means something like Berserkers running in with a super armor ability to grapple, and a class that uses a iframe into a grab, or perhaps like Drakania's ability that moves them forward into an upward grab. Those might be considered dash grabs. I don't really know what they're classifying as a dash grab. I know it doesn't impact me as a warrior because my warrior skills are not considered dash grabs. I have to basically stand still to execute a grab. Now I can do a solar flare grab, but that's not really a dash into a grab skill. That is an attack skill into a grab skill, and that might be where we'd have the 0.3 second wind up. But this is a very short amount of time. If you pay close attention to this, like let's open this up right in a new tab and make this. By the way, if you are not maybe like super tech savvy and you're wondering how images, what I'm doing here is I'm hitting control and I'm just scrolling up with my mouse wheel. So this is a work productivity thing too. If you are somebody who works with computers and maybe you don't know that stuff because perhaps you're old keck, that's how you do that. You just control and you scroll in. So if you're looking at this closely, this is not a lot of reaction time. I think this is very fair. Berserkers kind of have this right now. Warriors definitely have this right now. So don't feel like that is something that's like, oh no, this is going to be game breaking. I actually like this. I like that there's a wind up now. Oops, let's go back. All right. So melee and range grabs are, ow. Ow. Pelting me. Happy birthday. Here's some coins. Yeet.
I hope you have an amazing day and get spoiled silly.
Thank you, Ms. Raven. I appreciate you. If you guys don't know, on her own stream, Ms. Raven sang happy birthday to me. Even though I wasn't there, which is really wholesome. That's super sweet. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for that, Ms. Raven. That is some lovely stuff. Like that is some just wholesome, loving stuff. And we love to see that here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I do appreciate you. And you know what? Just for you, here's a little smoochie. Mwah. Homie kiss. Okay. All right. Back to the task at hand. All right. So melee and range grabs are now adjusted. We talked about this. The dash grab, again, I don't really know what all classifies as a dash grab. I would love to see a list of which classes or which abilities are considered dash grabs. All right. The grab success and failure judgment will now be applied immediately after the grab attempt. The grab success and failure judgment. Okay, so they're talking about the failure text, I guess. So it'll be, but I don't see that being represented here. So what does that mean? The grab success and failure judgment will be applied immediately after the grab attempt. Oh, I think what this is saying is after you attempt the grab, you're immediately going to get confirmation on the success or failure. But it's still going to have that wind up. Okay, so the circle animation will pop up immediately on whether you succeeded or failed. But so I guess this could mean a couple of things. This could mean the animation showing. This could mean that it's going to determine whether the grab was a success and failure, and there's still going to be a 0.3 second wind up for another player to CC you. Or perhaps this is a counterplay opportunity window, like i.e. if you're in the grab animation window, you are grabbed, but you have 0.3 seconds to react to that grab with a stun, stiff, CC, etc. It could mean a number of things. I'm gonna hold my thoughts on that one until that one comes up. All right, so when the grab fails, all characters will receive super armor and can perform other actions after 0.4 seconds. But why? I didn't want my grab to become more powerful. I wanted all other grabs to become less powerful like my grab. I felt that would be fair. You're basically telling me that as a warrior, I just got buffed because when my grab fails, I now have a super armor and can perform other actions after 0.4 seconds. So here's the question that I guess I follow up with. When you currently land a grapple, right? As a warrior or any class, when you land your grab, you're not in just super armor. And this is not a well understood concept. A super armor can be countered by grapples, right? We all agree that if you land a grapple on somebody, you can count, or if you land a CC on somebody and or you're doing a super armor attack, I should say, if you're doing a super armor ability and you are grabbed, that grab counters super armor. But currently, if I grab you, which is a super armor on connection, right? And you try to grab me, you can't. Your grab will break. So the grapple success is somewhat of a super duper armor. It is a different type of classification of super armor because you cannot be grabbed out of the grab animation. Now they're making it so that when I fail my grab for those 0.4 seconds, I am in super armor. I think that's dumb. I don't like that. And the reason I don't like that is because the whole intention of this is so that the grab becomes punishable. Now, instead of the grab being punishable, what we're about to experience is what I call grab chicken. Because if you grab and you fail your grab, I have an opportunity to now grab you. And my window of opportunity to grab you is greater than the opportunity of your actual grapple itself, because it's 0.4 failure and it's 0.3 to engage the grab. So you better hope you land that grab, because this is now grab chicken. What I likely see happening is people using alternative CC methods, like to land a stiff before a grapple, which a lot of warriors tend to do this anyway, because grab is very unreliable as a warrior. So I don't really see a lot of change for my class, but this is a big change for other classes. And adding super armor and failure just softened that gap. Now, granted, if you are a striker, if you are a a ranger, if you were a Kuno, if you were a Tamer, this is compensation for your super fast grab fail animation now not really having an animation, right? Or now having an animation. It was super quick before, and now there's an animation, right? So this is compensation for those classes. So in a way, the classes that had weaker grabs, like Warrior and Berserker, got buffed, right? And I don't think Berserker's grab itself is weak, because there's a windup to it, and there's a failure animation to it. But the reason that I say it was weak is because that failure animation was punishable. And I wanted all classes to be like that. So this makes our class more like Striker grab, which buffs us instead of nerfs them, and that's not really what I wanted. I'm not super happy to see that, to be completely honest with you. I was hoping that this would be a unprotected animation. But I understand where they're coming from with this, because again, they have to compensate those super fast grabs. During the grab action, the character can rotate according to the camera's direction for 0.3 seconds. So that means that you can rotate based on where your camera is positioned in that grab. So let's say I'm trying to grab you to my right. My character will rotate to the right and grab you. Right. That's all that's saying. However, the Nova's punishing trap, Hashashin's constriction, and Sage's C skills only cause the character to rotate towards the camera immediately after casting and cannot rotate after. So what that means is those casts, those animations, like a Nova's attack, because they are movement skills, like a Nova's grapple is a movement skill when it fails, they can't continue to rotate that camera and get more moves out of that. That's all that's saying. Okay. The Corsair's Heart Catcher, Petraka, I think this is a mistranslation skill, can be rotated when cast in place. However, the same rules as above apply when the skill is used in conjunction with another skill. So when they talk about rotate, we're not talking about mouse move anymore. We're now talking about camera rotation. So they can continue to rotate it. And if they apply another skill in conjunction with it, then the rotation stops. All right. Change the failure behavior when the grab skill of some classes fails. Warrior, Takedown, Valkyrie, Punishment, Ninja and Kuno, Suicide Fall, and Ninja Flash Bondage. So I think the reason that these were changed was to make up for this 0.4 second grab failure, right? Because I think our animation, I know in the case of Warrior for sure, our animation was longer than 0.4 seconds. So I do wonder if this is an actual animation change or if this is just a sped up animation, but that's all that's happening here. I can't speak for Ninja and Kunoichi. I imagine that these are probably timed to be larger than 0.4 seconds, and that's likely why they changed the grab failure animation. Right. The movement that appears when attempting to grab with Tamer's soaring kick but failing has been changed to something more natural. Fair, because it was almost impossible to detect the Tamer's failed animation. Fixing a skill failure to smoothly transition to another skill. You can still use another skill after 0.4 seconds. So basically, they're just making so you can move after that arbitrary 0.4 timer passes. You can now use a different ability. That's no different than it always has been. Summon damage calculation formula changed. This is one that I am very worried about. So the grab was one that I was less worried about. This is one that I'm very worried about. All right, but we'll go over it. The summon special damage increase effect has been changed to be applied to the summon creature's damage. So now things that are considered summons are going to do extraordinarily more damage. This means things like Hash Tornadoes, Pawns from a Nova, Crush Crusher from a Musa, things that were considered summons before. And we're not just talking about witch and wizard pets. We're talking about animations or attack animations that were considered summons. Those are now affected. All right. The damage amplification effect has been changed to be applied to the damage of summoned creatures. For examples, Yerzad Highlands, Tungrad, and Gyphon Underground. The damage... Okay, so these are now going to apply in PvE. That's cool. I don't have an issue with them applying in PvE. I worry about them in PvP. In PvP, the target's monster-related abilities, monster damage reduction rate, etc., will no longer be applied to the summoned creature's attacks. So in PvP, the monster DR and monster... They're just saying that in stats in PvP will behave differently, which is normal, which is what we want. Summons have been changed to no longer become stronger at night. The fact that they became stronger at night to begin with was really stupid. So who the hell knows? That was because they were classified as monsters, and now they're being classified as, I think, something different fairly. So what this means is the summons have been changed to no longer be stronger at night. What this meant was if you were a Nova and your pawns were out, it's because your pawns were considered monsters that they had become stronger at night. But this was not a substantial strength gain, but it can be a factor when you are fairly gearing at somebody. Class pets were stronger at night, so better trash. Yeah, dude. So if you grinded at night, I guess you might see a damage change, but you're going to gain a lot of AP, so it really doesn't matter. Due to the change in calculation formula for summon damage, the base damage of summoned items has been adjusted so that the final damage of summoned items has similar efficiency as before. Okay, so they're basically saying that you shouldn't feel very different. Damage from skills that directly attack summoned creatures, excluding Black Spirit skills, has been reduced by 36.5%. Damage from skills that directly attack summoned creatures. Interesting. So basically all our damage to summoned creatures is going to be reduced, but we don't really do a ton of damage to like things like Hylang and Tamer pets and wizard pets and Nova pets. We're not killing them anyway, so what difference does it make? I suppose it would be very interesting if suddenly they became killable. That might change things. All right. There was a point in time in Black Desert Online where when you fought Tamers, a legitimate strategy to fighting Tamers was to kill the Tamer's pet. You could kill the pet and then prevent the Tamer from resummoning. That was a strategy. So I don't know if that's a resurgence of that. I doubt it. All right. Remove accuracy rate and evasion rate to allow for an intuitive understanding of character abilities. The character abilities that were previously divided into accuracy, accuracy rate, evasion, and evasion rate have been integrated. I always hated this. We have accuracy as a stat, and then we have accuracy rate as a stat. They're just unifying these two things, and I think that's long overdue. Accuracy rate has been removed and replaced with accuracy +4 per 1% of the existing accuracy rate. So if you had a 10% increase in accuracy rate on an ability or a passive, that is now 40 accuracy, which is a lot more comprehensible given the accuracy evasion calculation chart, right? So now you don't have two different forms of accuracy and evasion that you now have to kind of figure out together. This makes it more comprehensible. Evasion has been removed and replaced with +4 evasion per 1% of the existing evasion rate. Seems fair to me. You're removing accuracy rate, they're moving evasion rate, just going for a flat accuracy +4 or evasion +4 per 1%. So this should just make it more easy to understand the difference in somebody's accuracy and evasion when they're using an ability that gives them something that improves their accuracy or evasion. Sorry, I have to stop and wet my whistle for a second. I am doing a lot of talking. All right, limit mouse movement while using skills. The use mouse movement function has been changed to be unavailable while using a skill. In situations where skills are not being used, such as gathering/moving, you can still use it the same way as before. So now they're just taking the mouse movement away from combat. I do think that Pearl Abyss is going to miss something. From the way it sounds, because they're not removing mouse movement as a mechanic from the game completely, because it's still in the game, they're likely locking mouse movement during certain abilities. So there is a good chance that Pearl Abyss will miss a few of these abilities across all the classes that they have. So this is where you, as players, need to be able to be diligent and detect when a mouse move is not removed from a class. So let's say, I don't know, wizards, right? Wizard teleport used mouse to move before, right? This may be affected. And if it's not affected and you notice that when you're fighting wizards, you need to make that known via an official report, via talking to your content creators, making this known so that we can be loud about it. Your content creators and your partners and your everyone that streams or makes YouTube content for Black Desert Online, we are voice amplifiers for you guys. You guys say stuff, we amplify your voices so that it can be heard on a much louder level. And I do feel like that has been a valid way of getting the point across to Pearl Abyss. And I'll get more into that a little later. I do plan to talk about that a little later on, about what I think Pearl Abyss is doing and if Pearl Abyss is actually listening or not. And I'm going to give Pearl Abyss some credit on this one, but we'll talk about it at the end of the video. All right, so pay attention to those mouse movement limitations. That's all I wanted to get at. All right, all class changes, all classes. Infinite Mastery. This is Infinite Mastery is a skill, is a passive skill you invest in right now. All right, they added 18 accuracy per skill level for a total of 108 accuracy when acquiring Infinite Mastery level 4 or level 6. What this is saying is we're all just gaining accuracy. This is a nerf to evasion. But because DR is kind of getting nerfed by the increase of accuracy or of AP, right? We're all getting more AP, so DR vis-a-vis is getting nerfed. An accuracy base level increase is fair because now evasion is also getting nerfed accordingly because they are trying to start to merge those two stats a little bit. You're not going to stack one super heavy. What you're going to do is you're going to have sources of both. You're going to have both DR and evasion. Right? You're going to start to see more hybridization. PA already has a mechanism in place that will allow full removal of mouse to move. It's in the console already. Right, but they're not doing that for this case. That's why I worry that you might have something to slip between the cracks. All right, starting off with the poster child. Warriors, those dang illegal warriors. Nerf them again. All right, due to changes in resistance and resistance ignore values, the following effects have been changed. Increase all resistances by 40% is now going to increase maximum health by 1,500. I wonder if that's also going to be a heal, right? So if you use Prime Enhanced Spirit, does that mean you're just going to get, maybe that's just a flat out health increase? I think this is actually a passive. I'd have to look in game. I think this is actually a passive. So I think they're just health pools going up. Prime Scars of Dusk. The effects of the skill has been changed to alleviate the difference in AP between characters. So increase all AP. Okay, so they're just basically getting more AP for Scars of Dusk using Prime Scars of Dusk. That's cool. This is actually more in line with the block buff, so I'm cool with that. The skill coefficient of the warrior class has been reduced by 4.41% as the AP value increases. So you buffed Succession Warrior, but you reduced my coefficient. Does this affect Awakening? Because that's not great. We already have a problem right now as Warriors, where when they moved our CCs around, they actually hurt Warriors. So like, for example, in Grave Digging, our heaviest hitting attack is the last tick of the attack. But because now the core skill gives you a knockdown on that attack, if you successfully knock down, you don't get the down attack damage modifier from that attack ability, thereby nerfing its damage. So these are things that Prolibus has to pay attention. When you change a class's CCs, you need to add air attack to those attacks. So things like grave digging, slashing the dead, anything that produces a knockdown like reckless blow, you need to add air attack modifiers to those abilities, not just down attack. That adjusts for now adding different CC types to those abilities. So Prolibus, I highly recommend you look at doing that. Let's see here. Executioner. Due to the changes in resistance and resistance ignore values, the following effects has been changed. Increase all resistance by 40%. Increase max HP by 5. Do I not deserve the same buff that you give the Succession Warrior? That 500 is negligible. This is nothing. It's nothing in the current scheme of things. This does not even adjust for the future content when our HP is going to inflate. This is stupid. 500 HP is not substantial enough. And again, this increase in maximum health, is this a heal for me? Because if it's not a heal for me, this is actually meaningless. But if it's a heal for me, it's still very negligible. This should have been 1500, or it should have been a flat DR increase. That would have made sense because you're going to use Executioner as you charge into a group of enemies. I would love to have a little more DR. 500 HP is too negligible. The AP increase makes sense, right? All AP goes up. I would have just liked to see DP to match it instead of HP because DP scales better than HP does. Greatsword training. The effect of the skill has been changed to alleviate the difference in AP between characters. So this is between different classes. So we're just getting more AP on our passive auto attack. That's all that's happening. Hi. So we're just getting more AP. Hi, Imagine. How you doing? All right. Merciless. The effect of the skill has been changed to alleviate the difference in special attack damage between characters. The effect of increasing critical hit damage by 5% has been removed. Cool. So, this skill is now fucking useless. The only reason that warriors are using Merciless is for the increased critical hit damage. Now, there's no point to doing that. So, cool. Good job, Prolibus. Make sure you give us something in exchange for this, please. In my previous video, I talked about how you can balance Warrior and make Warrior a viable 2025 class. If you do those things, I'm not salty about this. But I'm going to be honest with you, you just nerfed me for no reason. All right. The Great Sword Defense. The effect skill has been changed to alleviate the difference in AP between characters. So again, I'm getting balanced out, so I'm getting a little more AP to balance me out between different characters. This is my block buff. That's all they're saying. Warrior gets a little bit of AP bump during block, and so I'm getting a block buff bump. All right, Ranger, Spirit Healing. I can't speak to the technical aspects of Ranger, but for those of you Rangers that are watching this video, hello. Welcome to the show. I'm sorry your grab got nerfed. Sorry, not sorry. That being said, I'm still going to read these out for you guys. All right, Spirit Healing. The effect of the skill has been changed to alleviate the difference in AP between characters. All AP plus 6 is now going to all AP plus 20. The skill coefficient of the Ranger class has been reduced by 5.11% as the AP value increases. Absolute Will of the Wind. The skills have been changed to alleviate the differences in defense reductions effects between characters. Reduce all defenses by 30 is now going to be reduce all defenses by 25. So they're just changing. It's a very minor change. It's not going to affect much. Call of the Earth. The ranged accuracy increase effect has been changed from 24 for 20 seconds to 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20 for 30 seconds. Extending the duration, reducing the effectiveness. Makes sense to me. But I think that might be an overall buff if it extends the duration by 10 seconds. 10 seconds is a lot. So, all right, Awakening. Nature's Tremble, Flow, Rushing Wind, and Black Spirit, Wailing Wind. The effects of skills has been changed to alleviate the difference in defense reduction effects between characters. So these reduce all defenses by 30. They're now going to reduce it by 25, so a slight nerf to you guys. Oh, thank you, Ents. I appreciate that, man. Succession. For Sorceress. Welcome, Sorks. Prime Abyssal Vanguard. Due to the changes in resistance and ignore resistance values, the following effects have been changed. Increase all resistances by 30%. Ignore all resistance by 35%. Is now going to be increase all AP by 45%. That is big. That is a big upgrade to your damage. You're now gaining 45 damage in exchange for that ignore all resist. That was a huge bump. And I think you actually got the better end of the stick, because I think Warrior did not get, we got compensated doo-doo water. You got they gave us a matchlock gun and they gave you a bazooka. So that is amazing for Sorks. But Succession Sork is not really a favored build. This is mostly a PvE build for Sorks. I don't really see a lot of PvP Sork Succession players. So I don't really mind this, but I do wonder if it will make them more PvP viable. Probably not, but it might, right? Prime Dark Manipulation. The effects have been changed to alleviate the difference in special damage and AP between characters. The 2.5% increase in critical hit damage effect has been removed. Get fucked along with warriors. Add an effect that increases magic AP by 5. Cool. So you get a little more magic AP, but you're losing some critical hit damage, so get wrecked, nerds. All right, Grim Reaper's Judgment. Due to the changes in resistance and resistance ignore values, the effects have been changed. Increase all resistance by 30% and ignore all resist by 35% has once again been increased all AP by 45. Again, Sorks, you're up huge. So I don't think that's going to change the PvP-PvE balance based off what I said earlier, because Awakening is also getting a 45 AP jump on Grim Reaper's Judgment. And Cass, maybe you can help me understand what Grim Reaper's Judgment is. I'm pretty sure it's a passive for you guys, but if it's not, please let me know. Okay, so this is your E-buff. Well, that's still huge. You're gaining 45 to AP on your E-buff. That's massive. On a glass cannon class, Sorks are going to absolutely demolish during E-buff. And I actually don't really hate it. I think Sorks are... I don't think Sorks are overpowered. I don't. I think a lot of people think so. They think they're constantly protected, but I know Sorks' gaps. I think Sorks are, one of the more fair ones. I would rather fight a Sork than an Maegu, right? All right, so moving on to Berserker. Axe of Destruction. Frenzied Destroyer. The effect of the skill has been changed to alleviate the difference between characters. I'm just going to skip this going forward. I'm just going to say they've changed the AP balance, so I don't have to read this line every time. They've increased the AP from 16 to 28. That's a lot. They gained 12 more AP. Berserker's class skill coefficient has been reduced by 4.41% as the AP value increases. It'll probably end up being about the same. Berserker. All right, so we read the first part of Berserker, the coefficient being reduced. Now we're going on to Succession. Prime Beast Form. Due to the changes in resistance and ignore, they're now boosting their maximum HP by 500. So they're losing their 50% ignore all increased resistance, and they're gaining 500 HP. And their increase in all defense is going up to 50 from 20. That's a big bump. They're getting 30 more defense. That's 30 more all DR. It's pretty good. All right. For Frenzy Destroyer, the effect is going from 16 AP to 28 AP. For Awakening, Titan Syndrome, they're going from increase all resistance plus 50% to increase melee AP by 35%. So they're getting 35 AP during Titan Syndrome. This is pretty big, because this is it's going to hurt. Blasting. The effect of the skill has been changed to alleviate the difference in AP between characters, blah, blah. All right, they're gaining another 12 AP, so they're going from 16 melee AP to 28 melee AP. People do patch notes, yeah, but some of them read it like a second grader reading a rocket science college book. And in some of these cases, it's probably going to be the case with me, because I don't understand every class as well as somebody who mains that class, but I can still interpret information pretty well. So I'm just going to do that. And if it sucks, it sucks. And if it's great, cool, we'll rock with it. All right. The skill coefficient of the Tamer class has been reduced by 2.26% as the AP value increases. So they're just, as AP goes up, they just got knocked down at 2%, 2.25% coefficient. Big deal. Succession, Highlang's Aura. Prime, Highlang's Aura. All right, they're going from increase all resist by 20% to increase max health by 500%. Not substantial in my opinion. I think the 500 max health is kind of a lame change. I think they could have done something other than maximum health during these, because 500 health is negligible in the current meta, and I worry about in the future of BDO, as our stats begin to expand, we're going to have to revisit these. And PA does not revisit these often, so this negligible amount might stay negligible. All right, sharpening claws, flash, stance shift, temple trample, or prime trample. All right, it's going from increased magic AP plus 16 to 22, so they're gaining 6 more magic AP. Cool. All right, effects for flash, pull, thrust, and prime, lightning of earth. God, I really hate the way Prolobus names these abilities, but flash, pull, thrust. This sounds so illicit. What am I, at a strip club? All right, reduce all defense by 30 is now going to reduce all defense by 25. All right, Highlang Berserk. All right, going from increase all resistance by 20% to increase all evasion by 60%. So they're basically gaining flat evasion increase. That is a good change. That is, I imagine, probably their e-buff. That's what I wanted to see Warrior. Instead of giving me 500 HP, give me more DR. They gave them more evasion. That makes sense to me. All right. So Legendary Beast Dance, Echo, Azure Dragon, and Moonlight Strike. Going from 16 magic AP to 22 magic AP, again, a 6 AP increase. Beast Rampage, Garuda Legendary Beast Dance, Echo Flow, Intimidation. The effects of these skills have been changed, so that all defense is going from 30 to reducing defense from 30 to 25, so they're taking a little bit of a nerf. Musa, their precise martial arts are going from knockback, stiffness, resistance ignores from 15% to plus 5 AP. So not a bad exchange. This is a very specific resistance. So I think that if I was a Musa, I'd be kind of happy about that, because now I'm getting a flat AP increase over what was a very minor ignore resist before. Eye of the Storm. Due to the changes in resistance and resistance ignore values, they're going from increase all resistance by 50% to deleted. Get wrecked, you freaking Musas. You get nothing. Good day, sir. You get 0. Go home. But they are gaining 10 AP, so I guess for a Succession Musa, that's pretty good, because their AP is king for those guys. All right. I mean, it's not really getting nothing if they're gaining 10 AP. 10 AP is a lot. Ultimate Gale. The effect skill changed to be from AP plus 10 to AP plus 20. So Gale is also getting a 10 AP increase. Skill coefficient of the Musa overall has been reduced by 3.7%. So probably not going to factor into much of a change to that 10 AP. It's probably going to feel pretty similar. Musa's Soul, which we all know is mine. All right. Due to changes in resistance, they're getting from increase all resistance by 50% to increase all evasion by 60%. Again, this is the kind of change I want to see on all classes. This is what they should have been doing. Instead of giving us HP, they should have given us a primary defense stat. So they did it for some classes, but they didn't do it for all classes. And I think that was stupid. I think they should go back and revise the classes that use DR and give them DR. So Warrior, instead of giving us HP, they should give us a substantial amount of DR. The same with Berserkers and anyone else that got HP plus, because I think that's a fair trade. When you are using these, you should be going from increased resistance to increase primary defense stat for your 3-minute buff. That just makes sense to me, right? Moving on to Maehwa. Precise martial arts. Due to the changes in resistance, they're going from knockback, stiff resist. Again, they're getting the same treatment as Suck Musa, or as Musa in general, where they're getting 5 AP for a very specific type of ignore resist, which I think is a good trade. All right. Succession, ignore all resist, plus 5% to delete. Get wrecked, nerds. Due to the removal of all resistance, ignoring, blooming, stride, and red sword is activated, all AP increase. Okay, so they're gaining 14 AP. That's pretty good for a Suck Maehwa. So they're going to do more damage. And they already do a lot of damage. I'm thinking like AOS terms. Like these guys, a Maehwa can absolutely delete you in AOS. So it's kind of a big deal. All right. Their effect has been increased to alleviate the AP difference between characters. 20% to all AP, 35% on Blade of Maehwa. So Prime Blade of Maehwa is getting a 15 AP increase. The skill coefficient inherited Maehwa class has been reduced by 5% as the AP value increases. It's kind of a lot. All accuracy power increases and gained with Maehwa's Red Sword is activated has been changed to not stack with other accuracy power increases. So now they're not going to gain stacking accuracy. You can't get accuracy from that and something else. So just something to keep in mind. All right. Pedal Drill Oppression. The effects of skills have been changed to alleviate blah, blah, blah. Reduce all defenses on Pedal Drill and Oppression from 30 down to 25. So, and then the phenomenon where all the increased accuracy effects of Maehwa's General Might spell skills were applied simultaneously with other accuracy skill increases have been fixed. So this is basically making it so you can't stack it again. Valkyrie. Does anyone still play Valkyrie? I don't know who's still playing Valk out there. Due to the increase in resistance and change, blah, blah, blah. All status abnormality resistances is resist all by 100% is now deleted from Elion's Blessing. So there's no more resistance or there's no compensation for the resistance on Elion's Blessing. It's just gone. All right. And it's gone. All right. The effect for Divine Descent has been changed from 5% to all special bonus damage to 2% to all special bonus damage. So they're losing 3% special attack damage. For Heaven's Echo, the increase was 24, 24, 24, 24 for 20, 40, and 60 seconds respectively. It is now 12, 12, 20, 20 for 60 seconds respectively. So they're getting a accuracy increase reduction by 4. So they're losing 4 accuracy. Not a huge issue, I guess. Celestial Cry, all accuracy effect increases have been changed from 24 accuracy to sit for 60 seconds to 20 accuracy for 60 seconds. So again, they're still gaining accuracy. They're just gaining 4 less. Succession, which we all know doesn't exist outside of Paladin. Increase all resist by 10% is increase maximum health by 500%. This is what I'm talking about. This should be DR. The fact that other classes are getting evasion increases and we're getting HP increases is actually donkey doo-doo. I don't know why this horse radish exists. All right. This should be DR. Perlibus, search inside your souls. And whoever's the guy at that meeting who was like, you know what, we should give the DR classes HP and give the evasion classes evasion, punch him in the stomach. He does not deserve to have lunch that day. All right. Prime Glory of Enslar. Due to changes in resistance and resistance ignore values, they're going from increase all resistance by 50% to increase maximum HP by 1500. Again, should be DR, but whatever. What do I know? I'm just some guy. Natural health increase, natural health recovery by 200. So I guess they're going to have a passive health recovery during the duration of it by 200. Increases all defense from 20 to 50. So what the hell? They're getting an increase all defense? Why can't everyone else? So they're getting HP and increased defense. Man, they're really getting the better end of the deal here. All right, increases natural recovery amount of divine power to deleted. Get wrecked, nerds. Awakening. I mean, honestly, it's fair considering they're getting natural health recovery here and they're getting natural DR increase. That's pretty good. All right, Awakening. Noble Spirit. Due to the changes in resistance, they're increasing increase all resistance by 50% is going to natural health recovery amount. I don't really know what natural health recovery amount by 200 mean. Does that mean 200 every 5 seconds? What does natural health recovery amount mean? All right, change to forward guard plus super armor during the sprint. What? You're getting another forward guard super armor? I can't even get one. All right, whatever. And it's while they sprint. I can't get one. And they're getting another one. Bro. Increase all defense, but they're just getting the better end of the deal. Valk is just better. It's just a better class. All right. Increase all defense by 20 to by 50. Okay, so they're getting DR as well. And natural recover amount of divine power is deleted, which makes sense because they're getting it on Noble Spirit. Okay. Hasty Ludium. That's a mouthful. The knockdown resistance reduction effect on successful has been removed. Whatever, we don't really need it because obviously we're not getting it in its place. No big deal. And Divina Impulsa and Sanctitas de Enslar. Why are all of Valk's abilities names just sound like somebody threw up a Latin dictionary into a skill log, right? The effect of the increase, or the increased melee, has been AP plus 20. It's going from plus 20 to plus 28. The skill coefficient of the Awakening Valkyrie class has been reduced by 3%. So they're getting 3% damage increase, or they're getting a 3% damage decrease for AP overall. But they are getting, 8 more AP here on these two skills, so whoop-de-doo. All right. Ninja. Succession. Prime. Malicious Cut. We're back to English. Thank you. Due to changes in resistance and resistance values, they're going from ignore all resistance plus 15 to increase back attack damage plus 10%, increase down attack damage plus 10%, and increase air attack damage plus 10%. That's pretty good. That's actually a pretty good change. These are percent-based increases, not AP-based increases. So they're getting a lot for this. So that's pretty damn good for Succession Ninjas. The issue where all the skills accuracy increase effects were applied in conjunction with all accuracy and so they're just no longer able to stack accuracy. No big deal there. Kunos! Bro, we're not even halfway down this list. Jesus Christ. I love that BDO has a bajillion classes. By the time we're in 2030, this list is going to be twice as long because they're just going to keep adding stupid classes. Fixed an issue. All right, let's see. Kuno, they fixed an issue where accuracy power increases. Effects of Crimson Eclipse, Prime, Ninjutsu Commence skills were applied in conjunction with all our accuracy power increase effects, so they're making it so that accuracy doesn't stack anymore for Kunos. That's in line with everybody else, so nothing crazy there. Chain Crash, Sa Chakram Halo, where we've lost the plot on skill names again. The effects of skills has been changed to alleviate the difference in AP and special damage between characters. So the critical hit damage increase has been deleted off. Chain, Crash, Get Wrecked losers. Increased melee of effect of Halo, which was 20, is now 24. So you're getting 4 AP for the 5% critical hit damage increase you lost. Not a great trade. Wizard, Mind Training. The effect of the skill has been changed to alleviate the difference. Blah. Going from Magic AP 12 to Magic AP 8. So they're actually losing for magical AP. That kind of sucks. And the phase regarding resistance has been removed from the description, so there's no resistance change in protected area skill anymore. That means that in PvE, there's no resistance buff in protected area, which kind of sucks. They could have kept that in for PvE only. Prime Earth's Response Flow. This is for Succession. And Prime Earth's Response Destruction. The effect of these skills has been changed to plus 15 defense reduction when hit to down 20, so it does a little more defense reduction. Prime Equilibrium Break and Prime Aqua Gel Explosion are now going from 15 defense reduction when hit to 20. Again, a little bit of a bump. Awakening Hellfire. They're getting increased magic AP 6, 8, 10, and 12 to increase magic AP 4, 6, 8, and 10. So they're losing a little AP. They're losing about 2 per... No, they are losing 2 per rank. Hellfire and Black Spirit's version, the 15 defense reduction when hit is now a 20 defense reduction when hit, so I guess it's kind of fair. They're losing 2 AP, but they're getting a defense reduction on the BSR version of the skill. I don't know if that's their 10% or a different percentage, but whatever. On the Witch, probably getting the very same things as Wizard on this one. They're going from increased magic AP 12 to increased magic AP 8. Resistance being removed from PA, makes sense to me, right? And then on Succession, Prime Earth Arrow, Prime Earth's Response Flow, Prime Earth Response Destruction, Prime Equilibrium Break, Prime Aqua Gel Explosion, Optimus Prime, a Decepticon. These names suck. All right, 15 defense reduction hit is going to 20. Okay. In Awakening, Equilibrium Break, Black Spirit, Equilibrium Break, so it's both versions, both the BSR versions and the regular version, are both going from 15% defense reduction when hit to 20, so no massive change there, just a 5. That's the same thing we saw on the Wizard. All right. Dark Knight. Spirit Combustion. The effects of skills have been changed. Critical hit damage increased by 10% is now all AP by 15%. Not really balancing out. I think critical hit damage is a lot higher. But You know, at least they're getting AP for it. It's not like a minor amount of AP. 15 AP is pretty good. So who knows how that'll actually shake out. Striker, Succession. I can't wait to see how they buff Striker somehow. All right. Prime, Unleashing Potential. All right. Increasing all resistance by 30% to increase all evasion by 60%. Cool. They can get their primary defense stat increase. We just can't. 500 HP recovery when using skills. 1500 HP recovery when using skills. Cool. Yeah. Who doesn't want a higher evasion, more Healy striker? Increase all AP on Prime Crimson Fang from 4, 8, 12, and 20 to 4, 12, 20, and 28. So they're getting 8 more AP at the top end. And then Prime Knee Hammer is going from increase all AP at the highest rank 20 to 28. So they're getting 8 AP on Knee Hammer as well. The skill coefficient of Striker has been reduced by 3% as the AP value increases. Everyone's kind of getting this. This is just to adjust for the increased AP they're putting into their skills. They're reducing their AP coefficients. For Awakening, Guard Brace Training, the increased attack damage effect has been gone from 16 at maximum rank to 28 at maximum rank. That's actually a pretty big bump. That's a 12 AP bump. Somersault is going from 16 AP to 28 AP. Again, another 12 AP bump for them. Descent of Fury is going from increase all resistance by 30% to increase all AP by 35%. I do believe this is their E-buff, right? So they're getting a 35 AP boost on their E-buff. And the skill coefficient of the Striker class has been reduced by 4.41% as the AP value increases. So they're losing a little bit of damage on the AP for the Awakening Striker. I think that's interesting because Succession Striker have different and Awakening Striker have different coefficients. I don't think we've seen that on the other classes yet. I think the Succession and Awakening version are unified. It's interesting to see that. Mystic, Succession, Prime Somersault, going from 20 AP to 28 AP, right? Prime Sweeping Kick, going from 20 AP at maximum rank to 28 AP on the maximum rank, and the skill coefficient is going down by 2.62%. All right. For Awakening, Dragon Eyes, they're going from increase all resistance by 30% to deleted, get wrecked, you losers. All right. Going from 500 HP recovery when using skills to 1500 HP recovery when using skills. So they're getting an actual, instead of the increased AP, they're getting a massive HP boost. I think that's really good. 1500 is actually kind of fair. I wish mine was 1500, not 500. 500 is basically less than a potion. This is actually pretty good. This is like a Wilton potion. This is pretty solid. It's a nice little save yourself when you need it. Increase all defenses by 20% or by plus 20 to plus 50. So they're getting a full 30 DR on Dragon Eyes. That's really nice. So they're getting everything that I wanted, which I'm not jealous or anything, but I'm just saying, whoever is that dev at PA, you do not get a fish for the day. You will instead be sent to the chamber of wet socks, you bastard. All right. Spiral Torpedo. The effects skills has been changed to AP plus 16 at maximum rank to plus 28 at maximum rank, so 12 AP increase. The skill coefficient of Mystic class has been reduced by 4.41% as the AP value increases. Yes, the Chamber of Wet Socks made me physically cringe. You've been sent to a room with a moose. Let's see here. Lawns. Now on to Lawns. Zephyr. The effect of the skill has gone from all accuracy plus 5% to all AP plus 12%. Kind of an interesting change because instead of giving them a flat accuracy increase, just giving them AP in exchange, which is an unusual choice, but I don't really hate it. 12 AP is not anything to scoff at, so if you're a Lahn, you're getting more damage, so it's not bad. You know, what that means is that you can now I would prefer to get more damage because then it lets you vary your gear up a little bit, right? It gives you more options through gearing. So it's not bad. All right. Succession, Prime Crescent Charm. All right. It's going from increase all resistance by 30% to increase all AP by 20%. I assume this is probably their E-buff. They're getting a 20 AP increase. It's pretty solid. Awakening Annihilator is going from increased resistance by 50% to all evasion by 80. That is the highest increase we've seen so far. So Lahn is getting a solid defense increase of 80 evasion. That's pretty good. Honestly, that's really strong. of an evasion increase during their E-buff. So they're going to be very, very tanky during E-buff. All right, Archer. Archer changes are pretty brief, so it's going from On Grace of Sylvia, going from AP 12 to AP 20. It's going from Steady Breath, which is AP 12 to AP 20. And Radiant Explosions going from DR 15 to DR 20. Shai. This one I think is going to be kind of hefty. Give me a second to wet my whistle. Shai's base attack damage is changing from 47 to 53. So they're getting a base attack damage increase. I think what we're going to see here with Shai is going to be considered more of a combat class going forward. Previously, they were not really a combat class. They were supposed to be a support class, and people kind of shunt them into those roles. But I think what's going to happen is now Shai's can actually compete. What we might see here is Shai actually able to participate in AOS in the future, and Shai's actually being able to fight. I still think Shai is probably not really a good combat class because of how easily CC the Shai class is. They're not very protected. However, I think if you play a Shai main, in exchange for the things that you're losing, at least you're able to fight, and that's a good thing. If you are an honorable Shai who actually likes the idea of being an AP Shai and being able to kill players, and you're not just playing Shai because you're a shitty gimmick fucking lover, excuse my language, but that's how I feel about it. Because some people just really love the gimmick of being this just solid mass of just evasion or DR and not really doing anything else. I think this is a nice boost for people who actually want to play Shai in a meaningful combat capacity and not just being a literal stone on the ground. All right, so this is a buff in my opinion for Shai's. It's a nerf in some aspects, sure, but if you really consider how the identity of the class is shifting, I would consider this a buff. Shai's base attack damage changed from 47 to 53. Shai's Out of My Way. All AP increase effects from the skill and the Do It Better skill. All AP increase effects from the skill have been changed to not be applied simultaneously. So Out of My Way and Do It Better will no longer stack. That's all it's saying. For Do It Better, AP is going from 30 to 40. The 5% special attack damage is going to 2% special attack damage. From Quick 2, Twirl 3, Hop 3, really dumb names. I don't make these up. Blame Jay Kim. All right. The effects of these skills have been changed from reduces defense 35, which applies to monsters only, to defense reduction at 10%. Or no, sorry. This is how it was. It was reduce reduction 35, which was to monsters, and then player defense reduction to 10%. That's now changed to a flat 20 damage reduction, which is, I think, better. Because reducing a player defense by 10% is very, very strong against players. To a defense reduction, if you want to think about this critically, a Jin DR Charizard crystal gives you 25 DR. This nullifies almost one of those whole crystals because this is a 20 damage reduction. So it nullifies a Jin DR damage reduction crystal. So something to think about. And now it applies unilaterally to monsters and to humans, or monsters and players. So it's a flat damage reduction of 20. So not bad. I think this is a little more fair and a little more easy to understand. Right? Misty Haze, the big one. The duration of all armor and all evasion reduction effects has been changed. It's gone from 30 seconds to 1 minute. So now they'll be able to debuff you for a whole minute, not just 30 seconds. All defense reduction effects have been changed. All defense reduced by 10%, which was prohibitively strong, is now all reduced by 20. This goes back to what we talked about. This is like eliminating a Jin DR crystal. All defense reduction effects increase up to 35 when the soul is strengthened. So at the highest level, right, again, using the best DR crystal available, which is the Jin DR Charizard crystal, that gives you 25. This reduces your DR by 35. So this is actually more effective than nullifying one of those crystals off. And it lasts for a minute, and the cooldown is a minute. So this is a constant uptime. Instead of having one moment where they are prohibitively oppressive against you, they will be able to reduce your DR by 35 constantly. That is a always up as long as they hit you with it. And from what it looked like, the ability is a channeled ability. Chris, you were able to pull this ability up. How did you do that? You pulled the animation of Misty Haze up, right? Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah. So I think this is a channeled ability, and they can move during it. So if you get tagged with Misty Haze during the Misty Haze animation, you're going to take a 1 minute debuff. This is a zoning ability. This ability is designed to zone you out of a specific area of the fight, or you will eat the punishment. So I think that's fair. I actually don't mind the constant uptime on this. I think it's a better system than the current Misty Haze. But it also means in PvE, they'll be able to keep Misty Haze up constantly. I think that's also good. It will still keep them as a very valuable class to have in PvE. It is more strategic. This affects you in Node Wars and in PvE and really every version of the game a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? A lot more regularly, or a lot more constantly. But because you can't stack these effects, it doesn't matter if you have 1 Shai or 5 Shais. So it's all it does. It means that the effect will constantly be applied. So just all you have to do to counter this is just add another DR crystal, and you'll only be losing 10 DR instead of 35. Hey, how's it going, Send Notes? How you doing, buddy? All right, now on to Gordian. Gordian, Bone Freezing Wind. The effect of the skill has been changed. Critical hit damage is gone. Get wrecked, Gordians. But you're getting 8 more AP, so, consolation prize. Succession. Prime, Frostbitten Axe is going from all AP plus 5 to all AP plus 10. A nice little 5 AP bump again. On Claw Reveal, you are going from critical hit damage plus 5% to deleted. Get wrecked, nerds. In considering the effects of AP and decreased critical hit damage, and you're losing a 2.5% coefficient. So I feel like Succession kind of got, while you got some minor stuff, these are pretty big. Losing 5% critical hit damage and 10% critical hit damage is pretty big. I don't think this AP is enough to compensate for that, but that's my opinion. I think that's not really that great. For Awakening, the skill coefficient has been increased by 4.3%. Oh, you're increasing your coefficient. So you guys are getting more damage, not less. That's good. So not bad. You guys are getting almost a 4.5% increase almost for Awakening. That's pretty good. All right. Hashashin. Succession. Right. Prime, Seer of the Sands. Ignore all resist plus 5% is going to maximum health by 100. Woo! Woohoo! Yeah! 100! Yeah! Let's go! What the hell is that? Why even bother? You nerds. All right. Blades Pact. Prime Blades Pact. Going from... Yeah, now you can survive 1 more bite from the grass beetle. You're right, Nakatsu. All right. Prime Blades Pact. Increases all resistance by 30%, going to all evasion by 60%. This is a pretty strong increase on their e-buff. Ignore all resist by 30%, going to attack speed increase by 50%. Again, pretty strong on the these are really strong changes. So for Succession, they got some pretty strong changes here for their e-buff. So that's pretty strong right there. And Awakening can just get fucked, I guess. Get wrecked, nerds. Nova Succession. Prime, Frozen Darkness. All right. They are going from all AP 12 to all AP 28. So they are gaining a substantial amount of AP. They're gaining 16 AP. Good job. Quartrum's Guard. Increase grab resistance by 30%. Deleted. You get nothing. Go home. All right. Distorted Guard. Increase grab resistance by 30% to increase maximum health by 750. Again, not really that substantial. Still better than me, but not that substantial. The skill coefficient of the Nova class has been reduced by 5.8%. This has to be because your pets are going to do more damage. That's got to be it. I think it is because your pets are going to do more damage. So get auto-played more, losers. Chris, I love you, but get wrecked, nerd. All right, Awakening. Ungalled. The effect of critical hit damage plus 5 on Ungalled is now deleted. Instead, they're getting 10 more AP. So 10 more AP for 5% critical hit damage. Not exactly a 1-to-1 trade, but it's still pretty good. Report C thing. From my editor to suck no. Hey, Don't you slip some bullshit into the fucking stream, into the video right there. All right. Sage. Due to the changes in resistance, they're going from ignore all resist to increase critical hit chance plus 50%. You know, guys, I don't know what it is about Awakening Sage. I just feel like they need more buffs. They just need like maybe like a PA type effect, or if possible, maybe just give them a really strong SA self heal. I think Awakening Sage didn't do well enough last season, and Pearl Abyss, this is your opportunity to really just give it to all the other classes, and I mean just really give it to them. Like, it's not enough that Awakened Sage was really oppressive. What you could do is actually just make it so that when Awakened Sage is present on the battlefield, all other classes lose a 20% damage coefficient. I think that would make Sage a lot more balanced. Okay, so Upsurge, going from knockdown, resistance reduction effects to deleted. Not really a big deal, I guess. Defense reduction on Enlightening Bolt and Chain Lightning going from 30 to 25, so losing 5 DR on that one. Kind of negligible. Why do you hear Zethian laughing right now? Because if he's watching this video, he is fucking laughing his ass off. And if I was Zethian, I'd be laughing too. All right, Corsair. Prime Hydropower increases all resistance by 50% to increase all evasion by 60. So this is, I think, again, fair. I like to see these types of changes. I think this is what all classes should have gotten. They should have gotten their primary defense stat in place of the resistance, not what they actually got. So I think like classes that got like 100 HP or 500 HP kind of got the shorter end of the deal. This is better. You should be getting DR or evasion in place. So Pearl Abyss, the guy that did this, if it's the same guy that did the HP, fucking shake his brain, because he's like, there are certain parts of his day where he is just retarded, for lack of better words. All right, Drakania. For Marktanon's Rattle, they're getting a critical hit damage increase of 10% to deleted. Goodbye, critical hit. All AP is going from 12 to 20%, so they're gaining, or 12 AP to 20 AP, so they're gaining 8 AP. Really not a huge gain here, but it's something. Succession, I really don't feel like that's like even close to equal, but who knows? I don't know how it's going to feel when it comes out, right? The skill coefficient of the Succession Drakania class has been increased. Oh, so they got an increased coefficient. So maybe that actually works out really nicely for them. Whoa. Skill coefficient of Awakened Drakania has been increased by 5%. That's big. They got, Drakania, Awakening Drakania got a 5% damage increase. They're up big. They're up real big. Maegu, Awakening, has been deleted from the game, finally. I'm kidding, I wish. Twirling Crane. I wonder if this is their spin ability that's up every 6 seconds. The effects of the skill has been changed to alleviate the difference, blah, blah, blah. Critical hit damage from 2 to 10% is now increased magical AP from, yes! Good! No more critical hit damage, it's magic AP, so it doesn't even affect me. Cool. Good. So they're going from critical hit damage 10% to AP 12. I think it actually increases their AP because they're a magic class, so that's gonna be 12 AP for them. Scholar, Absolute Hammer Punch. Going from increased melee AP. I don't understand why they're classifying some classes AP and not classifying other classes APs. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. All right, so increased melee AP from 24 at maximum rank to 20, so they're losing 4 AP off of that. The skill coefficient of the Scholar has been increased by 1.5%, so overall a buff from them. So I think this is actually better for them, than considering the whole class is getting a 1.5% coefficient increase. It's pretty solid. Dosa. So Scholar buffs, huge buffs are meh. I think it's a good buff for them. I don't know, it's not huge, but it's a good buff for them. They're getting a little bit of a damage increase, and that's good across the board. So they're losing a little bit of damage on an Absolute Hammer Punch, losing 4 AP on it, but they're gaining 1.5% damage across the board. So as your gear goes up, your damage is going to go up substantially. So it's a good buff. It's for both. All right, so Dosa, Motion and Stillness. It's going from Ignore All Resist 8% to increase all accuracy by 20%. That's actually a pretty good change. Makes them more. Ignore all resist is a defense penetrator, and accuracy is a defense penetrator. So I feel like those are pretty equivalent. I feel like that's a pretty good change. All right, Succession, Prime Motion and Stillness, going from critical hit damage 2.5% to all AP plus 5. That's kind of a nerf. All right, Awakening, Elemental Invocations, going for Ignore all resist 10% to increase all defense 30%. That's weird. That's weird because it's going from a defense penetrator to a defender. I don't really understand that one. This was a weird one. Deadeye, the Canary Way. Increased all AP plus 20 to increase all AP plus 30. So Deadeyes are gaining a flat 10 AP on the Canary Way. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's almost the entire BDO community. Defense reduction. It's not an insult because you could be the good. All right. You're not necessarily the bad or the ugly, but you know who you are. All right. Defense reductions going from 30 to 25, so losing 5 DR. The skill coefficient of Deadeye class has been reduced by 2.6%, so overall a nerf. Even with the 10% AP on Canary Way, I don't really know what that is, but overall a nerf. Class damage ratios. Class damage ratios determine the percentage of damage one class deals to another. Previously, these ratios varied significantly across classes. To make PvP more intuitive and balanced, all classes now share a base damage ratio of 89.29%. However, to keep each class's unique role and flavor, we've sorted them into 3 groups: Vanguard, Skirmisher, Pulverizer, and depending on the opponent's group, you'll deal an extra 5% damage against or from that group. I have a lot to say about this part, and I'm going to kind of preface this with some common sense stuff. BDO has always had class-to-class modifiers. Class-to-class modifiers is a good system if the developers were actively on top of that, balancing them as it went. But because they were not balancing them as they went, we got maybe 3 or 4 balances throughout the entire duration of these classes in terms of their class-to-class modifiers. It wasn't a good system. If you're not going to use it, get the hell out of the way and let somebody out and bring in a system that you will actually use. So they brought in what is like a rock, paper, scissors system, right? So I'm going to read it and then I'm going to tell you why that this system has flaws. The basic class damage ratio of all classes in Black Desert has been changed to 89.29%. Each class in Black Desert separately for Succession, Awakening is classified into 3 groups: Guardian, Onslaught, and Surge. And the compatibility between each group is as follows. Guardian is 5% increase additional damage to Onslaught. Surge is 5% additional damage to Guardian. And Onslaught is 5% additional damage to Surge. All right, we're going to I'm going to briefly scroll over these groups, right? Actually, you know what? I'll just call them out. Succession, right? And calling this Guardian is an odd choice when you have a class called Guardian. So I would advise Prolibus to change the word Guardian to something else. Protector, Defender, something, not Guardian. Defender would have made sense. Succession Warrior, Berserker, Valkyrie, Striker, Guardian, Nova, Corsair, and Drakania are all going to fall under the Guardian subclass or a subgenre. And Awakening, Valkyrie, Mystic, Shai, Guardian, and Scholar. Now for Surge, you're going to have Succession Dark Knight, Mystic, Musa, Maegu, and Dosa, and Awakening Warrior, Sork, Ranger, Berserker, Tamer, Musa, Maehwa, Wizard, Witch, Ninja, Kuno, Striker, Lahn, Hashashin, Sage, Nova, Drakania, and Wukong. Now, I want to point something out here, and this is going to tie into what I want to say later. There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 subclasses in the Guardian subgenre, right? There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23 classes in the Surge genre. Now in Succession, you're going to have Onslaught. For Succession, it's going to be Sork, Ranger, Tamer, Musa, Maehwa, Wizard, Witch, Ninja, Kunoichi, Lahn, Hashashin, Sage, or Awakening, Dark Knight, Archer, Corsair, Musa, Maegu, Dosa, Deadeye. Now again, numbers. 13 in Guardian, 23 in Surge, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 19 in Onslaught. So what does this actually mean? Onslaught is gaining the best benefit. And here's how. Onslaught does 5% increased damage against Surge. And Guardian does 5% increased damage against Onslaught. So only 13 classes are going to do 5% more damage to these 19 classes. But these 19 classes are going to do, 5% more damage against these 23 classes. So they have the smallest population of classes that's going to do more damage to them, and they deal increased damage to the largest population. So if you're classified as Onslaught, you have a disproportionately higher defense and attack power against classes by and large. And if you are Surge, you have the worst trade because you do increased damage to the smallest population and you take increased damage from a larger population, and you do equivalent damage to your own population. So Surge is taking the biggest hit, Onslaught is the biggest buff, and Guardian is right there in the middle because Guardian takes increased damage from the largest population of classes, but they deal increased damage to an also large population of classes. Surge is getting the worst end of the stick, all right, followed by Guardian, and Onslaught is getting the best end of the stick. How many classes in Guardian are dead classes you will never see too? Yeah, there's that as well. Alternatively, there's more classes for Guardians to watch out for. Yeah, so it's, in my opinion, Surge has it the worst, followed by Guardian, and then Onslaught has it the best. This, to me, is a disproportionate balancing. And what's also weird is you're going to have class-on-class tournaments, like 1v1 tournaments, or in the future, you've talked about doing a gear-on 1v1 AOS type arena. Now you have differences between same class. So Warrior is going to do increased damage to Succession Warrior. That doesn't make any sense to me. So this is just my thoughts on this. I feel like this is kind of an odd choice, right? Because Valkyries are balanced across the board, but now like a Awakening Striker is going to do more damage to a Succession Striker. How's that fair? It seems like a baked-in imbalance. All basic class damage ratios are changed to the same level, and the PvP ratio of each classes will be adjusted. Again, I don't hate it. I just feel like the populations need to be adjusted because these are not good populations. This is done to ensure that the experience is as similar as possible to before, even after the basic class damage change. Cool. Probably not going to be because you didn't do your homework. However, if the existing PvP damage application rate is 100%, both PvE and PvP damage will increase. The PvP damage ratio of the Shai class increases by 38.14% compared to the previous average class damage ratio, which is applied as is to increase the PvP damage of the Shai class by 38. So they're making Shais so they can actually fight. Now we should be seeing Shais in AOS that actually have AP and can fight. That's what we should be seeing. And we now should be seeing some Shais who are actually feel like they can actually fight and get out in the world and do some damage. So Warrior is getting a 15% damage increase. It's a 14.5 really. Ranger's 8.15. Sork is 16.95, so almost 17%. Berserker is 24.3. That's a big boost. Tamer's 23%. I think Berserker's getting the biggest, healthiest boost of this. I don't really know why. Berserker's not exactly a lightly damage dealing class. They do some damage. And they're very defensive. Musa's getting a 16.63%. Maehwa's getting a 16.7%. Valkyrie's getting a 16.3%. Kuno's getting a 13.9%, almost 14%. Ninja's getting a 16.4%. Wizard's getting a 4.5% chance, so not really a lot. Witch is getting the same, 14.5. Dark Knight looks like they're getting the smallest end of the stick here with a 2.5. Striker going up 17.93 because that's what they need is more damage. Mystics going up 17.3%. You can't buff any class without buffing Striker. That's just the law of the land. Striker is Jaehee Ken's favorite class. So it has to get buffed. If they buff a Berserker, then a Striker gets 2 buffs. If they buff Shai, then Striker gets 2 buffs. It's just how it is. Lahn is getting a 17.6% increase. Archer's going up to 12.5. Shai, I don't know why they don't have them listed here, even though they're getting a 38.14%. Guardian is 10.42. Hash is getting almost a 20% increase. Nova is getting a 15.6. Sage is 16.3, Corsair is 16.5, Drakania is 10.4, Musa's 15.5, Maegu is 8.11, Scholar is 14.5, Dosa 16.6, Deadeye is 8.6, and Wukong is 10.7. This is what I was telling you guys earlier, where it's really early for you to make a determination on whether these balance changes are going to feel better or worse, because you can't really know until it's all put together. Okay? Item changes. Species damage. Species damage text has been changed to be more clear. Extra monster damage to humans is now going to be AP to humans. And then, so it's not going to be extra monster damage anymore. It's not going to say extra monster damage. It's going to say extra AP to whatever it is. So extra AP to humans, demi-humans, Sylvian species, or to all species respectively. Adventurers, additional AP effect added. The Adventurers additional, this is replacing human damage on PvP players. This is just basically saying, instead of having human damage for the purpose of both PvE human monsters and players, it's going to be separated. Damage to humans is going to be for monsters only, and then damage to adventurers is going to be to players. So that's what that means. Bonus extra monster AP. When the displayed sheet AP is 310 or higher, the bonus extra monster AP is increased by 8 for each point of displayed sheet AP exceeding it. Accordingly, the additional AP effect on monsters for some auxiliary weapons has been increased. So your basically monster AP is going to go up. I'm going to scroll through this very slowly. If you are watching this on YouTube, feel free to pause here. I'm going to scroll. Actually, it looks like the sizing is pretty good. So I'm just going to pause right here for a second so you guys can kind of enjoy this. So this will be on the Kudum. The first row is the Kudum right here, and then the Black Star secondary weapon, then the Godaride, and then Tuvala. Scroll down a little bit and just sit right here for a moment so you guys can appreciate it. Scroll down just a touch. I'm going to show it to deck. You just not have to see the base damage increases, but you can see it all the way up to deck this way. Actually, it looks like I have to scroll down a little more because it's cut off for you guys. So we'll go this way. There you go. You should be able to see it pretty well now. So yeah, this will give you a second to pause if you want to take a look at this. All right, and then they're obviously changing the items themselves, right? Remove ignore resistance effect from the Kudum, which makes sense, right? So after the change, it's going to give you all resistance plus 10%, which is cool. You're going to use a Kudum in PvE. The resistance only applies in PvE, so you're getting a 10% PvE resist. That's cool. I like that. That's a good change. All right, the Black Magic Precision Crystal is now going to ignore all resist 8. It's going to give you 12. The Elcar is going to go giving you from 12 accuracy to 18 accuracy to compensate for the loss of ignore all resist. The Elcar Crystal, this is a great change because now my Elcar Crystal is not a requirement for me to have in PvE. I can put that on for specific, or PvP. I can put this on for specific builds. I can also take it off altogether for PvE. So if you really think about it, your overall damage is going to go up in PvE because you had some things in there that you felt like you needed that you don't really need now. So your PvP and PvE damage should increase because your crystal build should change, right? Let's see here. Our Kudum lamp. Our Kudum, like our home furniture that gave ignore all resist by 5% is going to give you all resist by 5%. So, and the Manos is going from ignore all resist to resistance. And then the Rosar set is going from ignore all resist to accuracy. So pretty straightforward stuff. Resistance ignoring effect has been removed from the following items. I'm just going to read the items off for you guys. Remember, all these are all items that had ignore resist effect. These have been removed. It doesn't know if it's been changed with something, but these have been removed. From the King of Jungle Hamburg, Big King of Jungle Hamburg, Valencia Form Meals, Valencia Special Meals, Kron's Meals, Tears of the Phoenix, Perfumes of Insight, Immortality, the Perfume of Insight, Alchemy Stone of Incomplete Destruction. Basically, all your Alch Stones are losing the ignore all resist effect. All of them. So I'm going to skip over all the Alch Stones. All right. The event pie, not the pie. All right. Sharp, destructive. Okay, more Alch Stones. Yeah, all your Alch Stones are losing them. And of course, you're going to lose them off of your Crystal of Extreme Combination Magic Macalods and your Macalods and your Macalod sets are removing their ignore all resist from them as well. All right, some of the effects of the simple Crom meal have been changed. So before you had down attack damage plus 5%. Now it's going to be back attack damage plus 5% and critical hit damage plus 5%. That's great because down attack damage doesn't really do a lot for you in PvE, and this is mostly a PvE food, right? Simple Cromwell is for PvE. So now you're going to gain 5% back attack damage and 5% critical hit damage. So that's awesome. If you're a PvEer and you lost those critical hits, you're now getting that back through your simple Cromwell. So cool. That's not a bad change. I like that. Down attack is pretty niche. You're not really going to use it in PvE. Items with the effect of ignoring resistance have been removed. For deleted items, we will pay silver equivalent for the items for the value of the unified exchange silver. So basically, if you have these items if you possess these items, or you had them on the marketplace, they're going to remove the items altogether. And instead, they're going to just pay you in silver. So after the patch after the patch next week, make sure you go through and look at your crystal builds. Make sure you go through and look at your reforged stones, and make sure you look at your add-ons and adjust accordingly, because you're probably going to have some openings in those builds. Let's see here. I'm going to leave it right here. You can read this list. If you want to pause, you can take a look at it and pause for a second. All right. The exclusive fix for Solari's window has been removed. The exclusive fix for Solari's window. What the hell does that even mean? The exclusive fix for Solari's window? I don't know what this means. I just know they're removing ignore. Yeah. Oh, these are the Solari gear. Got it. All right. So they're just removing some stuff off Solari stuff. The ignore resist and ignore stun and all that crap. All right. So now you won't have time spear, crystal perforation, or negotiation anymore either. Those are the boot crystals that gave you ignore all resist, and the glove crystals that gave you ignore all resist. The essence of encourage and fragment of courage items used to craft items with the ignore resist effect have been removed. They're just going to give you silver for them. So if you had essences or fragments, you're just going to get silver for it. Silver will also be rewarded if you have a chest that is guaranteed to contain essence of courage. Cool. So you might get a lot of money if you haven't been putting your crystals together on this. If you have been doing like your Guild League stuff, you might do a lot of money if you just have those sitting in your inventory, because it's not a small amount of money. They're giving you 30 million silver per essence of courage and 50 million silver per fragment of courage. It's a pretty good amount of money, right? Essence of courage has been removed from the item exchange. Makes sense. Okay. Remove resistance increase effect. We know this already. So deleted items will be compensated with silver equivalent to the central market value price. For grapple resist, so you can pause and look at this. I'm not going to go over every single item, but basically crystals and pieces of equipment that offered you resistance increases, they're removing them all together. You're just going to get money in their place. All right. So they're removing lightstone effects. So again, this goes in line with the reforged stones we talked about earlier. If you have equipment like crystals, reforged stones, and lightstones, you want to take a good look at those again after the patch, because you might have some openings. All right, they're deleting some lightstones, and they're deleting some combinations. So lightstone combinations that will be deleted are going to be Brown Bear, Art of Grappling, Beatdown, Shockwave, Dominate, Predation, Exceed, Crazed, Wrestler, Center of Gravity, and Mind in the Clouds. So if you have something that gives you Ignore Resist, just understand that those lightstone sets might be changed. All right, they're deleting some guild skills. Guild skills that can only be used in Node and Conquest Wars have been removed. So basically, these are abilities that were for Node War, which is Warrior's Frenzy, increase resistance for all for 3 minutes, and Fierce Momentum, which increases your resistance for 3 minutes as well. Right? Guild points spent on learning skills have been returned, so you get those skill point back. And the location of those skills to boost morale has changed. I don't know what the hell that means. Adjusted chip damage. Whatever we're about to see is all in preparation of Blue Battlefield, folks. And I have a take on this that might be helpful for you guys. Sorry, I got a drink. My throat's getting all parched. Okay. Adjusted ship damage. With today's combat system overhaul, we've made broad adjustments to ship skills and cannon damage. Notably, ship-to-ship damage has been reduced by about 45 to 55%. And some ship gear now provides extra damage reduction. So ships are going to get tankier. These changes are aimed at balancing the upcoming blue battlefield naval node war. Previously, ship damage was so high that ships would get blown up too quickly if lots of captains joined the fight, so he felt a careful rebalance was needed. We've also combined the extra damage to ships and extra damage to sea monster effects on certain ships' gear, such as sea crystals and cannons. This adjustment is intended to ease the burden of having to prepare two types of equipment separately, improving efficiency in both monster hunts and naval battles. We'll keep an eye on things after the update and continue to listen to your feedback. One thing I will say about how I read these is I feel like when other people read these, they read these with a very flat tone, and I feel like I can adjust tone as I go to make it sound natural. So if you guys like that, I'll keep doing that. What's happening here is they're going to buff the durability of ships. And I'm gonna read the whole section, but I'm gonna preface it with this information. If you are a red player, right? And I know there's a number of red pirates out there. If you are a red pirate, I'm talking to you. This is not a nerf. This is a buff to you, and I'm gonna explain how. While, yes, ships are getting tankier, as a red pirate, you typically aren't fighting the most geared and best players in your naval loadout. You're typically fighting people you outgear. Let's be honest, right? And usually what happens as a red player is you're going to get ganged up on and taken down by players with gear. This reduces that. Now those players can't really effectively gang up on you as well because you take 50% less damage. So you just got tankier in your red gear. So in my opinion, this was a buff to you. So now when you go to Vel and you blow up everyone at Vel, or you go out into the world, or you're running around and just sinking trade ships, that's not really going to affect you that much. But it will affect you when you get ganged up on and get sunk. So just keep that in mind. All right. Attacks using ships have been changed as follows. Damage when attacking other ships has been reduced by 45 to 55%. When attacking a sea monster, the damage is the same as before. Damage reduction rate notation has been added to the descriptions of armor and figureheads among ship items. Among the effects of sea crystals, the additional damage to ships and the additional damage to ocean monsters has been integrated. This means that you don't need sea crystals for damaging sea monsters or other ships. It's all in one item. That's cool. We like that. We like things that make it so that you don't have to swap out them for PvE and PvP purposes. This is good for both players of PvP enjoyers and PvE enjoyers on the ocean, because now you don't have to swap your gear around to fight sea monsters or players. You could just do both. Change to the effects are applied to both sea crystals and either has the sea monster additional damage or ship additional damage effect. Remove CC resistance effect on monsters. Previously, when a monster applied a debuff effect, the game performed two separate checks. First against your regular resistance stat, then against your debuff resistance against monster stat, giving you two chances to block the debuff. With the new combat system, only a resistance stat is used against all monster debuff effects. The debuff resistance against monster stat will be removed, and any item that boosted it will now provide the all resistance effect instead. Okay, so what this means is your resistances from things like elixirs or buffs will now change to just will be higher, basically. So instead of having resistance against monsters, you're just going to have all resist. And now it's not going to perform two checks, it's going to perform one. So this actually should reduce the server load in terms of desync, but people aren't like mass PvEing in one area anyway, unless you're at a boss. So maybe this might make bosses slightly smoother, I don't really know, on the back end. But on the front end, it means that your resistance stat in your PvE gear should be higher. So don't be surprised if you see yourself with higher resistance. But I am interested to see how this actually plays out, because this could mean that you're just going to get CC'd more often. We'll see what happens. Monster and Monster Zone changes. Changes to recommended AP for Monster Zone. Again, I'm not going to read all these numbers themselves, but I will read the areas. And as I read the areas, if you'd like to pause this and just absorb the information yourself, you're welcome to. Jade Starlight Forest, City of the Dead, Elvia Quint Hill, Dekia 1 Crescent Shrine, Dekia 1 Olin Valley, Dekia 1 Ash Forest, Dekia 1 Kadri Ruin, Tungrad Ruins, Dokebi Forest, Darkseeker's Retreat, Golden Pig Cave, and Dekia Ash Forest 2. Okay. Let's see here. Changes to recommended minimum AP for monster zones. The maximum AP limit has been changed, and in the case of AP exceeding that maximum AP of the monster zone, only 5% is applied. Again, I'm not going to go over every one of these. What I will do is I will scroll down slowly, and if you'd like to pause, go ahead and pause. So I'm going to just scroll down slowly and pause the video as you feel necessary if you're watching this on YouTube. And if this does help you out, if you're watching this on YouTube and you find this video to be helpful, guys, do me a favor, leave a like and let me know in the comments, because I am still learning what you guys want and need. I know a lot of creators do this stuff already, but some of you guys have asked me to do it. And if this is something that you want me to keep doing, I need to hear from you. All right. Agris fever changes. Last week on the Global Lab, we mentioned plans to balance Agris fever efficiency across the board. While testing, we noticed that if every monster zone consumed Agris fever at the same rate, some lower AP zones could actually become more profitable. So where they were trying to unify the Agris fever that we heard about last week, they said they're basically scrapping that because it made some lower AP zones actually more profitable than higher AP zones. To fix this, we've set Agris fever consumptions per hour to range between 20,000 and 30,000 depending on the zone's difficulty. This way, the silver you earn with Agris fever will better match each monster zone's difficulty. So it's not unified, but it's closer, right? As the recommended AP and maximum AP values of monster zones have been refined, the overall Agris fever consumption value of monster zones has been changed. The amount of Agris fever consumed has been readjusted based on the value of silver coins obtainable in the monster zones. Additional monster zone changes are available at this link, I guess. Balance adjustments to each monster zone. The new balance, or the balance of each monster zone has been adjusted according to the adjustments to the combat system and item balance. Menu escape. The following tags have been removed from the monster zone information UI. Agris fever efficiency. Agris fever is not applied in monster zones. Okay, so these are all related to Agris fever tagging and searching. Hunting balance adjustment. The damage formula applied to hunting and sniping monsters has been changed. The damage has been changed to be applied as a fixed amount of damage rather than being determined when between a minimum and maximum value hits. Okay, cool. So this is going to be less variables during your monster shots when you're hunting. When applying the damage formula change, the average damage will increase by about 1 to 2% compared to before. Cool. Inventory improvements. Merv's portable bags, 8 slots, has been specialized for changing clothes, and Patricio's large costume bag for specialized storage has been added. Merv's, what they said at the Calpheon Ball, mind you guys, this is a temporary stopgap solution while they try and figure out something more long-term. But knowing Prolibus, this is probably what we're going to get for years. So buckle up. Don't expect something different. All right. Merv's portable bags can be purchased with loyalty, limited 12 times per year. So this is the portable bag. This looks like it's costume stuff. Patricio's extra large costume bag can be purchased with loyalty. So this is going to be a costume storage bag, so it doesn't sit in your Pearl inventory. The ability to change into Patricio's costume bag, 8 slots, has been removed. No! I love my Patricio bag. So this is going to, we're basically getting the same thing, but it goes per slot now. So you're not going to be, like, the only problem with the Patricio's bag is you can put in 2 swords and it just kind of applies the sword based off of a queue sequence that you can't see. But with the new bag, you can add them per slot and assign specific slots in the bag so you don't have that weird kind of jankiness when you swap around bags where, like, sometimes your sword comes with you and sometimes it doesn't based on what you were already wearing. So this is actually a slight improvement. And the other bag is just a bag where you can store specifically costumes. And what I'm hoping is when you put a item in this bag, it does not become available for crawning. Because I don't want my cron costumes that I plan to keep getting croned, and I don't want to have to lock it every time either. So if I put it in the bag, then that should alleviate that problem. So Merv's portable bag was given out for every number of Patricio's, I can't say this word apparently, Patricio's costume bags you have. So you're getting a 1-to-1 swap on those. Change so that Patricio's costume bag can no longer be obtained from the commission or secret shops. Okay, so basically that's the night vendor. You can't get them from night vendor anymore. Adventure log reward changes. Adventure log, often called core progression by our adventurers, no one calls it that, is a vital feature in Black Desert that boosts key stats like AP and DP for your entire family. Over time, it has become an essential part of the Black Desert experience, but with rewards spread across multiple logs, completed everything has started to feel overwhelming. Started to feel overwhelming? Started to feel overwhelming? Are you high? It's always been overwhelming. It's been dumb. Adding it over time, and the fact that we did it over time, never solve the problem of a new player coming in and having to do this all at once. Started to feel overwhelmed. More like you started to pay attention to it, goddammit. To make things simpler, all stats, including AP, DP, accuracy, evasion, max stamina, max MP, and max HP, will now be consolidated into a single log, Igor Bartali's Adventures, excluding event logs. You'll only have to complete this one log to claim all your stat rewards. If you've already finished the logs, any new or change rewards will be automatically granted. Okay. I don't mind this. It's fine. My problem is, I did those other logs. And those other logs, if you're not deleting them from the game, should reward things like social actions that are relevant. Let me give you an example, guys. We recently did all our quests where we did Land in the Morning Light quests for part 2. And those quests suck because a lot of them were like, hey, go get this green grade fish. And they had go catch a green grade fish like 15 times in the course of me doing those quests. And that sucked. But you know what would have sucked a lot less? Is if when I did all those quests, I got a social action of my character holding a prize fish. That would have been cool. It's relevant to what I just did, and it lines up with the quests. And they need to change it from green grade to green grade or above, because I shouldn't be punished for having latent mastery or a high fishing skill, which I felt like I was being punished for that because I kept catching blue fish. So just food for thought, Pearl Abyss. Consider adding these as social actions instead, because social actions are a good way to get players out in there. I don't mind you adding social actions to your Pearl shop, but you should add social actions to the quests. We're also planning to add color titles and special rewards to the remaining adventure logs, making them more optional, goal-driven challenges. That's good. Oh, wait, special rewards. Could that be social actions? I would love to be social actions. If we see social actions, boys, they're listening. If you haven't finished them yet, we hope this update encourages you to tackle them at your own pace and earn a variety of rewards. That's a good change. I actually like that. If they're making it titles and they're making it social actions, or they're making it costume pieces, those are great rewards for adventure logs that are not tied to stats. I like that. The completion reward for the journal that allowed you to obtain abilities that apply to the entire family when completing the adventure journal has been changed. All right, so I'm going to scroll through this slowly so you can look over these now, because it's a lot of changes that I'm not going to get into the weeds on. So I'll just let you guys, pause as necessary if you want to really look at this and you don't want to open up the notes yourself. You're just clicking on the video. You can pause at any point in time and just look at these yourself. Just going to keep scrolling slowly, and you can just keep pausing as you want. There's a lot of stuff here, man. A lot of logs. I guess you're getting item collection scrolls, Embers of Primordial. It doesn't look like we're getting social actions. That would be nice. Or even emotes. Emotes would be cool. Like, they have emotes in game now, so they can do emotes now. That would be a nice reward too. Just something to consider, Pearl Abyss, for your future. You should add emotes, like, without a doubt. I think that would be a net win. Some adventure journal descriptions have been improved. Igor Bartali's journal. So they're just talking about them improving the description of adventure journals. Pit of the Undying Changes. Let's go. Previously, you had to complete 4 daily quests to get all the rewards from Pit of the Undying. To ease the daily burden, these have been changed to weekly quests. Oh. You only need to complete them once a week now. I don't mind that if you're not going to reduce my rewards. Quest rewards have also been adjusted, so you'll receive similar rewards with just one completion. Okay! Hey! You know what? I like this Pearl Abyss guy. He knows what he's doing sometimes. 20% of the time, he knows what he's doing 100% of the time. All right. While the number of the Seal's Undying rewards has decreased, boo! The number of Crow's Black Jewels you can earn has increased. Who cares? Because once you're done with them, you don't need them anymore. letting you take on higher tier weapon quests faster than before. Again, doesn't really matter for the end game player. The people who want the crons, it's the seals of the Undying that matter. Additionally, with the upcoming combat system overhaul, the attack patterns and visual effects of the Pity of the Undying monsters will be updated and improved. I hope so, because some of those are pretty antiquated. You shouldn't be teaching players to use super armors to avoid CCs and then punishing the player for using super armors. You shouldn't be teaching players to use PvE frames, and then when they use a PvE frame, they get caught in it anyway. These are not good mechanics. So hopefully they do fix that. The balanced presentation of monsters appearing in the Immortal Abyss has been adjusted. So improved prioritizing attacking adventurers. What were they attacking before? Oh, maybe they were attacking pets, like summon pets. Change to transform into a Berserking Cardoon. Okay, so they did some visual effects for these guys for when they get the buff. So like this one, Ashizar, is one we're very familiar with because he is the pen boss, right? The pattern of removing the buff by applying different status effects and situations has been removed and has been changed to a pattern of quickly hitting multiple status effects. That's a net win. I'd rather that than you got to hit them so many times. It just lets you do them faster. Improve the presentation of certain actions. And then let's see here. Forgotten Fruit Ascendria. Ascendria Summoner Kun. A gimmick has been added to remove Ascendria's buff when hit by an abnormal status in certain conditions. That is so fucking undescriptive. I can't even... What kind of brain-dead monkey approved this patch note? Okay. Duran, the Iron Fighter. Duran's attack in certain situations has been changed from 2 to 1 attack. Okay, so you only have to apply 1 CC instead of a chain of 2 CCs. This should make them a lot easier to do. Hopefully they remove the necessity for you to do stuns from Duran because some of us don't have stuns in our kit. Added warning messages depending on the attack Duran uses. If the gimmick fails and you enter reinforced battle phase, the reinforced battle phase will be reset after a certain amount of time. Okay. Immortal Shadows Solios. I'm not going to read this one. You can pause if you want to hear it because this is not a pen boss. I only care about the pen bosses, to be honest with you. If you want to read the non-pen bosses, you're welcome to pause. Immortal Shadow Cyril. Improve the appearance when teleporting after an attack to appear a little more naturally. Cool, because she's really annoying to fight right now. So I guess she just drops in now instead of just appearing, which is slightly better. Immortal Shadow Gotharensa. The requirement that status effects must be dealt with a back attack in certain situations has been removed. I like Gotharensa as he is because he's easy to cheese. I feel like they're going to make him harder to cheese. Atari, thank you for the follow and welcome. The number of times status abnormalities are applied to remove a strengthening effect has been reduced. Okay. So you don't have to apply it so many times either. And then Kaharaxia, the number of status effects applied and the time for which status effects are not applied to initiate Kaharaxias. Powerful attacks has been increased. The following changes will apply when using Kaharaxia's defensive stance. When using defensive stance, a defense buff is applied. The maximum number of times you can use defensive stance has been changed from 3 to 2. The cooldown for using a defensive stance has been reduced. So all in all, they are reducing the amount of seals we get, which means we are going to get less crons from this. This, to me, is not a net win. So before the change, if you did the Pity of the Undying daily like I did, you were getting 700 seals of the Undying. Now you're only going to be 500, but you only have to do it once. So it's a trade-off. It's not a net negative, and I'll explain how it's not a net negative. If you had to do Seal of the Undying or Pity of the Undying 7 times and took 10 minutes, you took 70 minutes to do the Pity of the Undying per week. Now you'll be doing it for 10 minutes one time and getting 500 seals in one go, thereby freeing up your time to do other content. So if you replace that 70 minutes with or the remaining 60 minutes with 60 minutes of grinding, you're up massively, right? It is a net increase, not a net decrease. But knowing me, I'm probably not going to do that, and neither are you. You're probably just going to do something else, like, I don't know, watch a movie. Watch some stupid anime that you guys like to watch. Freaking weirdos. All right, the number of Crow's Black Jewels required for the promotion. Pen Seals promotion book has been changed from 250 to 200, so you can now promote faster. Your crons, but again, you get them faster because you're doing it once for a slightly less amount of crons, for 200 less crons, but you're saving 60 minutes a week, so you can reinvest that 60 minutes anywhere else in the game to include fishing and make that money back. All right, let's see here. The number, it should be at least 1,000 for it being weekly. I don't agree with that at all. Because you have to do it one time, not 7 times. Think about it. Think critically. It is a buff, not a nerf. If you think about it logically, if you think about it with monkey brain, then yes, you will be like, me, less crons. Less crons bad. No like less crons. Right? But think about it critically, and you'll realize that it's actually a net gain. Cool? Still in the chat. I don't get as many crons stones. I don't get the same amount of crons. It's a nerf Zeroden. I'm not getting the cron stones now. Shut up, losers. It is a net positive. Yeah, Atari, I do these all the time. I actually just did them before I started reading these notes. Pity the Undying is something I do daily, and I try not to skip it because it is 100 cron stones a day, but now I only have to do it once a week, so for me, this is a net gain. All right. The exchange method for exchanging cron stones for Seal of the Undying in the integrated goods has been changed to allow you to exchange all of your Seals of the Undying without leaving any behind. Cool, because before you could only exchange a maximum amount, now you can exchange as many as you want. Let's see here. Quest prerequisite changes. Some Black Desert content is locked behind prerequisite quests. To make it easier for our adventurers to access and enjoy this content, we've significantly relaxed these requirements. The prerequisite quests process to enable the following features has been simplified. Family inventory. I'm going to scroll down this slowly, and this is going to cover family inventory, increased maximum weight of family inventory. Again, if you want to pause during this, you should. There's a family quest for Nader's belts, crystal presets, Marnie's suspicious device item transfer, miraculous fish tanks, the green artisan gathering minigames, the campsite tent, which is the free tent, the Florchestra. Goddamn, I just did this quest line, you bastards. All right, sealed fairy wing exchanges, instruments for Marnie's, all right, tier 5 pet training, and the Marnie wave dialogue options have all been changed. So you can pause during that if you want to kind of see that more slowly. NPC Amity buffs have been removed. Nobody cares. I'm going to go ahead and scroll through this slowly. Again, if you want to pause through this, you can. And I recommend that you do. I'm not going to read all this inane stuff, but it might appeal to you, and if it does, you should pause through it. Mount changes. The damage from the horse has been changed so that it is no longer applied together with the adventurer's AP. Oh no, I like that. Before, the way it worked was, let's say you had a tier 10 Doom horse and you hit somebody with a fiery 4-chop, which is, I forget what it's called, but I call it a fiery 4-chop, right? If you hit somebody with the flames, your AP as the adventurer was applied to those flames, so they took more damage. The damage from a horse's attack skill is applied as a fixed value. So now the horse will deal a fixed value regardless of your AP. So if you're low AP, this might be a buff. If you're high AP, without a doubt, this is a nerf. So change so that mouse movement is not possible while using horse attack skills. I'm okay with this. This should actually help with some horse desync, because while I like being able to kind of mouse move during my horse's like knockdown skills, it is very desyncy, so I'm not opposed to this. Node War and Conquest War changes. In order to allow each class to showcase its unique characteristics, buffs applied through skills, passes, and add-ons have been changed to be applied without being included in the stat cap limit. Oh, okay, so they made it so that your class buffs now apply without being pushed against the stat cap limit so they can surpass the limitation. When a character receives a debuff effect, a reduction value is applied to the excess stat value. So, Conquest War damage when hitting certain attachments and using vehicles using the old ballista bullets has increased. So ballista is going to do more damage against fences, fence gates, a rough fence, medium siege towers, large siege towers, barricades, and iron barricades by about 1.5 times. There are some UI changes coming up, guys. The UI for equipment has been improved to allow you to more easily and intuitively check the details of your stats currently applied to your character. You could check the bonus stats based on the AP and defense abilities displayed on the screen by clicking the View Bonus Stat Range button. Cool. Yeah, so it's going to be a little bit stat clarification in your UI. We like that. Add a Doom Collar to the UI that displays the number of guild mounts held. Cool. In the description of the region, In Find NPC, Find Region Warehouse, 3 locations were displayed as village names instead of the region names that have been corrected. So, okay, minor spelling corrections. The rest of the stuff is going to be some inane stuff. So, like small things like expression of humans versus human species, etc., etc. Enhancement UI improvements. At the last Heidel Ball, we announced that enhancement UI improvements would arrive on July 30th, along with the streamlining of enhancement terminology. We're finalizing new features like an enhancement exclusive inventory. However, to avoid confusion, when many players or when many adventurers enhance Sovereign sub-weapons and Idana's defense gear, with the August Idania update, we've decided to reschedule the update for a later date to ensure everything is polished and ready. Does that mean we're getting the Idania and Sovereign stuff later too? I hope not. I hope they're not delaying that because of the enhancement bag, because I'm fine with the enhancement system as is. Just give me my damn content. All right. We appreciate your understanding. I don't understand, and we'll do your best to deliver these improvements as possible. This is the classic corporate speak of, instead of saying we're sorry, we're saying thank you. And then there's some bug fixes about the music album, blah, 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 blah. You can pause here if you really want to see these. All right, guys, that's it. That's it for the patch note rundown. Again, if you like this stuff and you're watching this on YouTube, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe. And if you like this content, if this was helpful for you, I don't normally do stuff like this. If you like the way I read things versus maybe the way another creator reads things, let me know in the comments. This will help me do this stuff more often for you. I don't have a problem doing these things, but I will do them only if you guys want them. For me, it doesn't seem logical to do things you guys don't want. So let me know in the comments. All right, guys, thank you guys all for joining me, and God bless you all. See you on that next adventure. All right.